Hi, I'm Minari Shah, and as a part of Amazon's international owned content team, my job is really to bring alive the rich and complex stories about Amazon that all of our audiences, our customers, our partners, employees, policymakers care about. One of the most important stories for us is really that of sustainability. I'm delighted to have here with us Kara Hurst, the Amazon VP for Worldwide Sustainability. Kara has a really important task. She has really the responsibility of leading the way for how is Amazon decarbonizing. How do we really reduce the environmental impact? And really, how do we safeguard the planet for our future generations? It's a complex, long task, evolving task, long-term commitments, and really it's about something that matters not just to all of us here at Amazon or those who even interact with us, but really for the entire planet. So Kara, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me and having sustainability on the agenda here at Smbhav. It's really exciting to be in India.
Kara, let me kick it off with a really personal question. You've been doing sustainability and roles around it for a long time, most of your career. What really led you into this field, even when before perhaps it became so fashionable to be in sustainability?
Yeah, it's funny to think about it as in fashion. For me, it's really the critical issue of our time. And I have been doing it for many decades now. What it started out for me was really about thinking very much about how society and the private sector intersect to bring all the resources. I've worked in NGOs, I've worked in politics, and thinking about coming to Amazon and motivating all of the ways in which we operate, the businesses in which we have across the world, the industries that we're in, the geographies that we're in, and thinking about how do we, with our customer obsession, really turn all of that innovation, inventiveness, our focus on science, on data, towards the climate crisis and towards making the world a more sustainable place for our customers, our employees, our communities where we operate. It's very exciting, and so I'm just thrilled to be able to do this work at Amazon and to stretch into all of their different partnerships around the world.
If there's perhaps one area where collaboration counts, it's sustainability. But how do you really put in context what we're doing at Amazon vis-a-vis what's happening in the industry? And how do you do this at the scale and complexity that's Amazon?
Yeah, so one of the things that we have been doing at Amazon for a long time is looking at the science. And in 2019, we took a commitment to the Climate Pledge, which is our commitment to be net zero carbon by 2040. And so that was a big step forward for us. And the reason that we did that for Amazon was to set that long-term intention to begin to drive all of our businesses towards being more sustainable, towards net zero carbon, but also to hopefully invite and inspire others in the industries that we work in to come along with us. Because one of the things that we know about climate change and sustainability work in general is that we really cannot do this alone. It is absolutely a collaborative effort. So one of the things that's exciting about the Climate Pledge right now is that there's now, if you look 4 years after we founded it, there are 400 other companies that have joined us in the Climate Pledge, and they cross 55 different industries in 38 different countries. There's actually 9 companies here in India who have signed on to that commitment to be net zero carbon by 2040. And we're learning a lot together. As companies join, you gain access to technical expertise, to solutions that other companies are deploying. It's a place to come and bring your challenges. So there's a lot there that we're learning from each other and working on. I think it's one of the ways that we've really differentiated our approach is to have that bigger community that is really an invitation to collaboration. And again, we're also, I think, unique at Amazon in our mechanisms. So it's something that every long-term Amazonian knows is that we really try at the scale that we operate to create mechanisms. And so we look to operationalize sustainability throughout all of our businesses, which means our businesses are creating sustainability action plans. We're asking them for specific goals. around how they're going to decarbonize, how they're going to make carbon intensity reductions, and then we're putting those into play as a company and learning from each other internally as well. So this is a long-term commitment and something that we also work on every single day throughout the company.
One of those, major parts of those long-term commitments is really powering our operations with renewable energy. And I think we just announced that about 90% of our operations are now powered with renewable energy. So could you tell us a little more, like what would it take to really get to 100%? And also, what are we doing here in India about this?
Yeah. Well, our commitment, again, when we announced the Climate Pledge in 2019, we know that we took a look across being science-based, across what are the biggest carbon levers that we can pull. And certainly one of them is our commitment, our longstanding commitment to renewable energy. So we made a commitment to be 100% renewable by 2030. And with many things that we do, we looked at that and said, actually, we think we can go faster. So we've now pulled that up to 2025, which is hugely ambitious, on our scale. But I'm happy to share we're already at 90%. So we're running 90% of our global operations on renewable energy. And we do that through large utility scale power purchase agreements on wind and solar. We have 400 of those projects globally already, and we have 6 large-scale utility wind and solar farms here in India. It's about 920 megawatts. We also utilize energy storage, so battery storage. When the sun is not shining, the wind is not blowing, you want to be able to capture that energy and store it, so we're investing in battery storage. And then finally, we also utilize all of our own buildings. So on our fulfillment center rooftops, we have projects, and we have 43 of those here in India for 23 megawatts of power. So it's a large-scale effort. And again, we share what we know with companies who are learning in this area. We are joining organizations like the Clean Energy Buyers Alliance and other types of organizations where we share information about that. We work with policymakers on grid modernization efforts and a number of other initiatives, so that not only are we procuring power in a way that's additional to grids, but we're also advocating for those grids to be modernized and for renewable energy to be abundant, really, everywhere that we're operating.
I think the scale of this is pretty amazing. And the other area, I think, where people are watching Amazon with quite a bit of interest is kind of fostering the demand around electric vehicles and our partnership with Rivian. And we also made a commitment in India to deploy 10,000 electric vehicles by 2025. So how are we progressing on all of this?
Yeah, and I should have mentioned, too, with the renewable energy, just to give you a sense of the scale, we are the largest corporate purchaser of renewable energy in the world, and last year set a record. And I say that not really, to give you the size of the scale of Amazon, but more that it's so important for larger companies and their value chain partners to send those kinds of demand signals. That really does tend to move markets. And it's a similar thing to what we're doing with electric vehicles. So for many years, we knew, again, where our carbon impacts are. They're in our transportation and logistics. They're in our buildings. And so when we look across that, we think about what are the changes, the operational changes that we can make. And we know fleet electrification is one of those changes. And so we were having a hard time finding vehicles, procuring vehicles that would work for us in the ways that we needed to operate. So we worked with many different car companies, but we weren't finding what we needed. And in 2019, we decided to send a very strong demand signal to the automotive industry. And along with the Climate Pledge, we announced we were ordering 100,000 electric delivery vans from a company called Rivian, with a goal to have all 100,000 of those electric delivery vans on the road by 2030. So that really, sent what we would call a shot across the bow to that industry, that we were sending a very strong demand signal, and we really wanted to have vehicles that we could put on the road. We wanted, again, also in the conversations we were having with policymakers, we wanted to have the conversation about the changes in infrastructure that we also needed to see and that we thought communities would also benefit from. So if you fast forward again, 4 years to today, we have thousands of those vehicles on the road across 800 different cities. And that's great progress, and we'll continue to do more. And then here in India, we've made a commitment to having 10,000 vehicles, and we already have 6,000 of those on the road, again, across hundreds of cities. So we're really trying to do this at scale. And we work with multiple different OEMs. We work with Mahindra, and we work, with many different companies here in India. We have also a commitment to put up to 1,000 of these middle mile trucks on the road. Eichner, I believe there's one still outside that you can go see. And that's another great commitment to different types of mobility, different types of solutions that we want to see and we want to procure at scale.
I'm, by the way, going to be looking out for your picture with the truck. But yeah, I mean, I used to be with the auto industry, and I know there's a lot of excitement with the large auto companies in India for the work that Amazon's really doing in this. But taking a little slightly different track, when we talk about being customer obsessed, customers say they want a very sustainable world, but they don't necessarily behave in a way which shows that, because they just want their packages delivered yesterday. So how do you really look about this? Like, what does that really mean?
Yeah, well, of course, we're, as been mentioned many times today, being customer obsessed, we know that customers want a wide selection of products, and they want them fast. One of the really interesting findings, again, from our science and data perspective, was that most often, actually, our fastest delivery option is our lowest carbon option. And that's counterintuitive to a lot of people when you think about why would that be? Most people don't connote that speed and sustainability are friends. And they think that delaying is maybe a better option. But really, a lot of that has to do with the way that we optimize and place inventory in our network. It's really interesting when you think about, some of the things we've talked about, making the large changes. If we want to, for example, build buildings with different materials, with low carbon concrete, with green steel. That's a great way to abate carbon in our operations. If we want to electrify fleet and change over from internal combustion engine vehicles to electric vehicles, or potentially vehicles running on green hydrogen, those are great operational changes that we can make. But another operational change that we can make is when we think about the algorithms that we run on and how we place inventory within our system, and then getting that inventory close to a customer. So I want to give you an example that we think about as a vision from a sustainability, from our team and sustainability, how we would think about serving the customer. So if a customer orders an Echo device, what we would want to see is that Echo device was manufactured in a facility that was net zero, meaning that facility was built with green steel and lower carbon concrete. And then we would want to transport that. I loved hearing today about all the rail partnership that we have, and certainly that's a low carbon modality that we can transport product on in that initial transportation phase. And then we think about the packaging that it goes into, and we want to zero out that packaging. And I'll talk in a second about what the packaging improvements have looked like. And then when it arrives at the customer's doorstep, we're hopefully, we've optimized that inventory to be very localized to the customer, and we're able to achieve that last mile in an electric vehicle or a fully sustainable way. And then we actually are purchasing power, renewable power, on behalf of our customers to cover the entire use phase of the device. And we're doing that today. So that means during the lifetime of that device in your home, we've purchased renewable energy to cover that. And then we want to give you, from a circularity perspective, good disposal options or renewal or refurbishment options for that device. We have businesses that will repair and refurbish devices so that they can be resold and have a second life. Or if it's ready to be disposed of, we want to give you the best way to recycle and dispose of that device, and on the back end, take all that back. So we think about this very much from a life cycle perspective and all of the different ways in which a product that we produce would be, fully sustainable through that life cycle. The packaging in particular, if I can focus on that for a minute, has been a really interesting story for us because it's what our customers see and touch and feel every day. It's what we hear a lot about from our customers when they think about the sustainability impacts of Amazon. And we've been very much hard at work in both elimination of materials like thin film plastic elimination here in India. So we've got 100% elimination on that. We also, though, have been working to make the other materials in our system fully curbside recyclable or recyclable in general municipal systems. That's very important to get at the root cause of those materials. But even more important would be how do we facilitate the logistics to send a customer an item without any over packaging or boxing? So we have programs called Shipped in Own Box or Shipped in Own Container, where we're actually fully eliminating the Amazon packaging from a product. And so that's a new experience for many customers around the world where they just receive a product without any Amazon packaging. But really, we are able to do that and not damage the product. One, by making packaging changes to the primary product packaging, and two, by making changes to our logistics. So we've open sourced a lot of that. We've developed a product packaging standard called ISTA 6. We've given it to packaging labs, again, trying to collaborate and share in that way because we want the packaging to be right-sized. We want the product to arrive undamaged. So we've taken out, since 2015, about 41% of the weight of our shipments. That's 2 million tons of packaging. And so these are big numbers, and they make a huge difference both in our materials usage, but also in the customer's experience. They have a lot less waste to throw away at the end of the day.
I think those are some really insightful points about also how is really, how you're operationalizing and bringing it right into the business decisions. But do you often run into a challenge about balancing the sustainability goals with the cost? And, how does business respond to that, and how do you really balance that?
It's a great question. And I think that, again, I think these constraints and cost constraints included drive innovation. So we take them as a challenge. And everything that we're doing, again, is science-led at Amazon. So if we're taking out, if we're right-sizing packaging and taking out 41% of the weight per shipment and taking out 2 million tons of packaging, we're saving a lot of money by not having to procure those packaging materials. So that's a savings. If we're running our buildings on, building management systems that are creating energy efficiency opportunities within those buildings, and we have energy savings as a result, and we have benefits from procuring renewables, that's cost savings to Amazon. So many of the things that we do are actually beneficial to us in terms of cost savings. That's not to say that there's not certain premiums that we're willing to pay right now or that we want to make investments in, which certainly happens in sustainability, but we also see this in a very long-term view. So one of the things we did in 2020 is we established the Climate Pledge Fund. It's a $2 billion venture fund where we invest in early-stage decarbonizing technologies. And we've made 22 investments out of this fund to date. And one of them here in India, Ion Energy, which is an exciting company. But we have companies ranging from regenerative ag to electric vehicles to electric aviation. We've done one test flight with a fully electric airplane. We have, just really interesting electrolyzers for green hydrogen, kind of a full range of these that we're public about, and you can read about where we've invested. And some of those will be, may not work out, and some of them will be hugely successful. But I think thinking about this as a long-term also issue that you invest in and you catalyze. If you look at the solar industry, I think that's a great example of where solar was not at cost parity with other energy sources, going back a decade. All the investment that we've made, the incentives that we've put in, the public policies we've put in to support solar make it at cost parity now. So we really see this whole area of clean technology, sustainability, green tech as a huge opportunity for us to continue to invest early and for us to have some cost savings. on behalf of our customer. We should be doing this on behalf of our customers and on behalf of our communities so that they're cleaner and more livable and healthy as well.
That really takes me to my next question, because I know that we're doing a lot of investments in kind of operationalizing sustainability across our business, but I know that there is also a deep focus on how do we kind of work with the communities, and especially, being here in India, which has such a rich biodiversity, like how do we really kind of ensure that we can work towards that with the communities, the ecologically sensitive areas? How are you thinking about all of those?
Yeah, well, I'm really excited actually to share today some of the work that we're doing in this area. We have a Right Now Climate Fund, another thing we established. It's a $100 million fund where we invest in nature-based solutions, preservation, conservation efforts around forests, wetlands, peatlands. And one of the reasons we did this, again, to pivot back to the science, is because when you read the IPCC reporting, this is a both-and solution. So we need to decarbonize as a business. An industry needs to decarbonize. We need to abate carbon. We need to bring it down. We need to make operational changes. But we also need to preserve and invest in nature. We will not, as a planet, remain below 1.5 degrees. We will not remain in a sustainable, space if we don't continue to invest in the nature that currently exists on this planet. So the Right Now Climate Fund was established to invest. We've done a lot of projects in consultation with the Nature Conservancy globally. We've done projects all over the world, and we just announced that we are putting $15 million into the Asia Pacific region and $3 million specifically into India. And I can share with you today that we've got our first project, which will be $1 million investment in the Western Ghats region, which the jewel of India. There's it's a UNESCO heritage site. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the rich biodiversity that exists in that site. And we're working with a great organization to work with thousands of farmers. The overall project is going to serve 10,000 farmers. They're going to plant up to 1 million trees. Our contribution will serve about 2,000 of those farmers and plant, I think, about 300,000 trees. And really, that's going to create a forest barrier between this conservation site and the farmland. And there's many economic and social and environmental benefits to this work that we're doing. So the trees are selected to be indigenous, and they provide an economic benefit. Many of them will bear fruit. They will eventually maybe bear timber, and it's a regenerative project. So we love this project that it's providing both the environmental and social and economic benefits. We've also, this organization that we're working with, the World Conservation Society, is going to, I think, really provide us also with good data. It's very early on, so we're learning a lot in this, and there's good information that will come out. They're going to monitor the project with drones. They have a lot of postdoctoral research going on. We have indicators that we're collecting from the very beginning. So our investment in nature is it's not just philanthropic, but we'll learn a lot. We'll share that information and that data, and really, I think, contribute to preserving some important biodiversity here in India.
I love the fact that you're investing here in the Western Ghats as a start, and the approach that you're taking. And now, one of the questions that I think most people in the room might have, or many of the people who are watching online, there are people who are companies in different stages of their journey for sustainability. Some are just starting out, some are leading, some are midway through. If you had to tell them one or two things, what would you really like to tell them?
It's a great question. First, I'd say come join the pledge. If you can make that commitment to net zero carbon by 2040, it's a great community. It's an open party, a big tent organization where we want all kinds of companies, big and small, to come and join us and learn with us. And one of the things that we're doing now that we have over 400 big and small companies around the world in the pledge is that we're creating joint action projects. And we're doing those in the transportation vertical, we're doing those around product, and we're sharing information with each other, and we're getting to work on decarbonization efforts. There's no cost to join. There's only 3 tenets to the pledge. The first is you have to map, measure, and manage your carbon impact. Second is you have to decarbonize in your own operations first, so you have to make those operational changes. And third, where you have carbon emissions that you cannot abate through operational changes. You can use nature-based solutions, but they have to be real, permanent, and socially beneficial. So it's a great framework to think about if you want to get started, or if you've been, working on sustainability, but you want to take a leap into a really aggressive and ambitious climate target. We invite you to join the pledge. And the website is theclimatepledge.com. You can see who's in it. You can learn a lot about the initiatives, and I'm happy to talk to anyone here about it. So that's the first thing. The second is we need industry action, even beyond what we're doing in the pledge. We need a lot of industry action. We need collaborative action. So we are part of a number of different industry associations that have been set up around sustainability issues, and I'll talk about a few that I think are important. One is if you're in aviation, or if you are a company that uses aviation, the Sustainable Aviation Buyers Alliance is a great organization where we're working on getting more sustainable aviation fuel into airports, and on a collective solution to purchase aviation fuel in the aggregate, a book and claim system. We also have, for those of you who are using ocean freight and maritime, we have the Zero Emission Maritime Buyers Alliance. It's another buyers alliance. And we're in that, and we're working with Maersk, and there's a lot of good effort going on there. Ports and the maritime industry, a huge sector for emissions, also very hard to make change in because it's a heavy infrastructure sector. So that's one that I think is a great one. We have COZEV for electric vehicles. We have the First Movers Coalition, which is another global coalition working on 8 hard-to-abate sectors across things like ocean freight, chemicals, built environment, steel. And so there's a lot of, I think you get the theme here, there's a lot of collaborative efforts that are happening throughout the world and are waiting for, if you are leading, absolutely we need you. If you can send a demand signal, we need you. But if you want to just learn, it is really a welcoming and open environment for people to come in and ask questions and understand how these issues impact. And the last I would say is, for many of you who have product that you're producing, we have a program at Amazon called Climate Pledge Friendly, where we are badging product, and we're doing this through third-party standards. So we took a look across our product catalog and portfolio, and externally at eco-labels. And it is something that our customers find very confusing. Maybe many of you do, who are looking for sustainable product. There are over 800 eco-labels out there. But we put our science team to work on this, and we managed those 800 down to about 420 that then we thoroughly analyzed and managed down to about 22. And we found those 22 to be highly credible and carbon abating. And so we've enrolled those standards into our program, and we add new ones all the time. And we are now badging product. So if you can go out and get, certified by one of those standards, depending on the product that you make, we will auto-enroll you and then highlight your product on Amazon, and we will give you the Climate Pledge Friendly badge. And this program has been growing to hundreds of thousands of ASINs over time. It's really exciting to see the impact it's having. Our customers love it. And they're now able to search very easily on our sites for Climate Pledge Friendly. So that's something that we're growing and we're bringing around the world, and we hope to grow more here in India over time. So really exciting things that we're doing that we hope to kind of expand and scale with all of your help.
Thank you, Cara. That was wonderful, quick, really, insight into some great business information and insights about how to manage costs, some really new, exciting initiatives for India, and finally a clear call to action. That was well done. Thank you, Cara.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
having
so
me.
much.